Hola clase, en este video vamos a hablar de narrar en el pasado. So we're going to talk about how to narrate in the past using our two past tenses in Spanish. So this is obviously a little different from English. We only have one past tense. So if you think back, we've had several of these as far as Spanish goes. You've got ser and estar, you've got por and para, and you've got the preterite and the imperfect. So for us, there's just one option in English. In Spanish, we've got two options, and we use the preterite for certain things and the imperfect for certain things. Now, we've already previously talked about the preterite, we've talked about the imperfect, and now we're going to talk about, really those specifics to help you figure out which one to use, because they may not have been as clear in the past. Okay, so clase, to start with, let's talk about el pretérito, the preterite, okay? And again, all of these are past actions. It's just the type of past action we're talking about. So if we are talking about a sequence of completed actions in the past, okay? So if you're thinking about a story, think about the events that happen, okay? The actions, not the background information, not those details that flesh the story out. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the actions that kind of progress the story along. Okay, these actions move the story ahead. These are what we would consider preterite actions. Okay, so we would put these in the preterite. For example, Carlos entró en la tienda. I don't know why that says tiendo, right? Tienda. Compró un regalo para el cumpleaños de su mamá y salió inmediatamente. Now, these are conveniently all in one sentence, but that doesn't necessarily happen in every story or sentence when you're talking about in the past. You may have multiple ones that kind of create this sequence of events. But you see here, Carlos, he entered the tienda, right? He entered the store. He bought a gift, and then he left immediately. So those are our actions. And remember as well, even though there's just three actions here, that can kind of continue. There can be more than three, or there may only be two. So just think of this as completed actions that move the story along. Okay, if we have an action in the past that has a specific beginning or ending, okay, it doesn't have to have both, just one or the other, we're going to use the preterite. Llegué al trabajo a las 7. I arrived at work at 7. Okay, I arrived. That's a specific beginning. Okay, anytime, typically when you arrive somewhere, that's a specific thing. Okay, this, they've actually given you a time. Okay, so this is a very specific time, but I could also say, that it was not as specific, like en la mañana, or I could do a day of the week, something like that. I arrived at work on Friday, right? Empecé a trabajar a las 8:30. Okay, I began to work at 8:30. Right? So anytime you begin to do something or you end, right? So maybe you stop working, then both of those would be preterite, okay? So again, we have 8:30. They've been very specific time. They've been giving you very specific times here. And here terminé, as I was saying, el trabajo a las 5 de la tarde. Okay, so typically these three verbs are going to be used in the preterite. Very, very commonly, let's say 99.5% of the time, they will be used in the preterite. Okay, because these indicate things that they're clearly beginning, it's a clear beginning or a clear ending, right? It's not a process. Okay. To discuss an event, action, or condition that occurred over a specific period of time. Okay, so we've got these little timelines, these visuals, and hopefully they will help you a little bit. Okay, so Lorena estudió por 2 horas, right? She studied for 2 hours. That's a duration of time. It was a specific period of time that something happened. Los niños pasaron todo el día en el parque. Right? So the children spent the whole day in the park. Or estuvimos en Oaxaca todo el mes de julio. And my face is there, so I doubt that you can see that part right here. But they're saying that we were there for the entire month of July. So all of these are periods of time, okay? So let's talk about the imperfect. The imperfect, when we talk about actions in the past using the imperfect, we're talking about habitual actions, things that occurred quite a bit, okay? And you'll notice they've illustrated this with sort of a dot, 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 okay? Pedro comía en ese restaurante todos los sábados, right? He used to eat at that restaurant every day. So this is a very common, and we talked about that in the imperfect video. This is a very common expression that we will use often in the perfect is the used to, right? He used to eat, right? Things like I used to go to my grandmother's house every Sunday, or, you know, I used to spend every summer at my grandma's house, something like that. Those would definitely be the imperfect. So if you can say used to, okay, if it's a habitual action, something that occurs multiple times, but not a specific number of times, then you can use the imperfect. Ana iba de compras todo el tiempo. She went shopping all the time, or she used to go shopping all the time, okay? If we're talking about an ongoing event, action, or condition with no reference to the beginning or the end of the action, okay? So when we're saying something is ongoing, okay, it doesn't mean that it's always ongoing. It's just that from our perspective, we can't see when it started or when it ended, okay? Rosa hablaba mientras miraba sus compras. She was talking while she was looking at her purchases, or she talked while she looked at her purchases, right? We don't know when she started talking. We don't know when she stopped talking, right? We don't know when she stopped looking at her purchases or when she started looking at them. We just know that they're both occurring at the same time, okay? And two ongoing actions together will create this double imperfect. So far we've seen just sentences mainly that had preterite by itself and perfect by itself, but you will find sentences that will have both. Okay, llovía mucho y no podíamos ir a la playa. It was raining a lot and we weren't able to go to the beach. Okay, and also one of the things that typically happens with weather is, and they may bring this up in another slide, it's sort of background information. So typically it is the imperfect tense. Okay, so here we go. Here's our next slide. They're bringing it up, right? The imperfect describes the background information or what was going on when another action in the preterite took place. Okay, so here we have conversábamos con la profesora cuando Lourdes entró en la clase. So we were talking with the professor. We don't know when it started. Okay, and we don't even know if it ended, but it was sort of interrupted, right? Because Lourdes entered the class. She came into class and she kind of interrupted this ongoing action of us talking. Las chicas salían de la casa cuando Jorge las vio. Okay, so probably got this cut off. So we've got las vio that's supposed to be here. So the girls were leaving the class when Jorge saw them. So they were in that process, right, of leaving. Okay, and during that process of walking out of the classroom, right, Jorge saw them, right? So the action of Jorge seeing them, that's the preterite, okay? And this is in a process, right? So he sort of interrupted that action of them walking out by looking at them. So let's practice a little bit. Okay, what I want you to do is think about some events in the preterite and in the imperfect, okay? So you are going to fill in the clouds with the background events, okay? These background events are going to be your time, your weather, okay? What was happening before the actions occurred? Set the scene, set the stage, because that is really what imperfect does, right? And so anything that we would think of background, anything that's not moving the storyline along, those are going to be your imperfect actions, okay? All the actions that occur, right, to move the story along, think back to that. He entered, right? Let's say he entered the store, he bought a gift, he left the store, okay? But you need to come up with 5 of them, okay? And then, for example, if I was using these bubbles, I might say, it was a sunny day. And then maybe I would describe, he entered the store, you know, the store was full of people. It was really pretty in there. The walls were blue. You know, I could just go on and on about that, right? So then I might, maybe I would say he saw a gift as part of my actions here, right? So he saw a gift before he bought the gift, right? And then maybe I could describe a little bit about the gift. I don't know, it was round, you know, maybe the color, whatever that gift happened to be, you know, a description of that. He bought the gift. You know, you could even describe what the person was like behind the counter. And then, you know, he left the store, and you could even describe the door. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with both the preterite and the imperfect. But really, if you think about it, think of preterite actions, okay, as that storyline, the actions that move the story along. The rest is just background information, right? And if you think about being a storyteller, the best storytellers really give great descriptions, right? And those are the people that really flesh the story out. All those little additional things that you want to hear. Like I said, the color of the walls, what the object looked like that he was buying, what the weather was like. Whereas people that aren't really gifted with storytelling, I'm not so great as far as, you know, saying it out loud. You know, we're kind of the people that we just say, well, I went to the store, I bought a gift, I left the store, you know. And those sorts of people, they can just do those preterite actions. They just do the actions that kind of move things along, okay? So to be a great storyteller, right, you flesh things out. So you're going to flesh the story out with your imperfect, and you're going to just have your regular actions as part of the preterite. Okay, so hopefully this will help you as you move through this section on preterite versus imperfect. If you don't get everything right the first time, don't worry, go back, look at it again, and make sure you're paying attention to why is this preterite or imperfect. Don't just say, okay, well, I got this wrong, and so it's preterite because I put the imperfect in and that's incorrect. You need to take a look at this because this will be a very important part of this class, and it's important to know for your tests. Okay, clase. So good luck on your preterite and imperfect. Study hard with this. It will really help you through. Hasta luego, clase.